The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its crystalline dome reaching into the amber sky of Nexus Prime. Ambassador Sarah. Chen stood at the human delegation's assigned spot, a modest platform barely visible among the towering structures that housed the galaxy's dominant species. Above her, the Velthari delegation occupied a spire that scraped the chamber's ceiling, their serpentine forms coiled around bioluminescent trees. To her left, the crystalline Zephyrians hummed in harmonic frequencies that made the air itself shimmer. The insectoid creche clicked and chittered from their hive-like construct, while the gaseous ethereals swirled in their containment spheres, each one the size of a small building. And there, at the chamber's center, stood the podium reserved for the hegemony, the coalition of species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Today, they would vote on humanity's petition for protected status. Species designation human, announced Overlord Vexthul, his 12-meter frame casting a shadow that engulfed Sarah's entire platform. Population 8 billion. Average height 1.7 meters. Technology level grade 4 civilization. Military capability. He paused, his 4 eyes scanning the data with what might have been amusement. Negligible. Ripples of what Sarah had learned to recognize as laughter echoed through the chamber. The Velthari's musical trills, the creche's rapid clicking, the Zephyrians' crystal chimes. The petition states, Vexthul continued, that humanity requests protection from the Devourer's expansion into the Orion spiral. They claim their species possesses unique qualities that would benefit the galaxy. More laughter. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. She had studied each species here, learned their languages, understood their customs. She knew this moment would come. Unique qualities, mused Counselor Zilthus of the Velthari, her voice carrying the melodic quality her species was known for. What could a species of such diminutive stature possibly offer? Their technology is primitive, their size laughable, their lifespan brief. Perhaps, clicked High-Mind Krek of the Kresh Collective, they excel at hiding in small spaces. The chamber erupted in what passed for amusement among species that had conquered star systems, while humanity was still discovering fire. Sarah activated her translation device and stepped forward. Honorable Council, she began, her voice barely a whisper against the vastness of the chamber. You measure us by our size. You count our years, weigh our ships, calculate our firepower, but you haven't measured what matters most. And what? Overlord Vexthul rumbled. Would that be, little human? Our resolve. The word hung in the air, translated into a dozen languages, interpreted by minds that had never needed to learn its true meaning. 3 months ago, Sarah continued, your scouts reported that the Devourer fleet had consumed the Kepler system. What they didn't report was that 17 human mining ships were in that system when the Devourers arrived. She activated her holographic display, a gift from a sympathetic Zephyrian trader who had visited Earth. The image that appeared was grainy, intercepted from Devourer communications. This is Mining Platform Delta 7, Captain Maria Santos commanding. The Devourers had already consumed 2 planets. Santos had 43 crew members, including 12 children. Her ship's weapons consisted of mining lasers and kinetic ore launchers. The hologram shifted, showing a battle that had lasted 6 hours. A tiny human ship, no larger than a Kresh drone, dancing between Devourer bioships the size of moons. Santos knew she couldn't win, knew she couldn't escape, but she also knew that 18 parsecs away, the colony ship New Horizon carried 60,000 human settlers, families fleeing the war zones you've allowed to expand unchecked. The chamber had grown quiet. Even the ethereals had stilled their constant motion. Santos had a choice. She could run, try to save her crew, or she could buy time for New Horizon to reach the hyperspace jump point. She chose to fight. The hologram showed the mining ship's final moments, ramming into a Devourer biocruiser at full velocity, her mining charges detonating in a chain reaction that crippled the enemy fleet. The Devourers were delayed by 16 hours, just enough time for New Horizon to escape. Sarah's voice carried across the silent chamber. Santos and her crew died, all 43 of them, but 60,000 humans lived because 17 people decided that some things are worth dying for. She deactivated the display and looked up at the towering forms around her. You want to know what makes humans unique? It's not our size or our technology. It's that we understand something you've forgotten in your millennia of dominance. We know that the measure of a species isn't how much space they occupy, but how much space they're willing to defend for others. Counselor Zilthis leaned forward. One incident does not define a species human. You're right, Sarah agreed. So let me tell you about the Siege of Proxima, where 12 human ships held off a devourer swarm for 3 days to evacuate the Velthari colony you abandoned. Or the Battle of Titan's Gate, where human marines fought alongside Kresh soldiers to retake your mining worlds after you'd written them off as lost. The chamber stirred. These were defeats the hegemony preferred not to discuss. Or perhaps you'd like to know about the Mercy mission to Zephyr 7, where human medical ships flew through a devourer blockade to evacuate your wounded when your own fleets declared the system too dangerous to enter. Sarah stepped closer to the center of the chamber, her small form somehow commanding attention from beings that could crush her without effort. You measure us by size and find us wanting. But every species in this chamber exists today because at some point, humans have bled for you. Not because we had to, not because it was profitable, but because it was right. Overlord Vexthol's 4 eyes fixed on her. And if we grant your request, if we extend protection to your species, what do you offer in return? Sarah smiled, a small human expression that somehow carried across species barriers. The same thing we've always offered. The same thing Captain Santos offered when she could have run. The promise that when the darkness comes, and it always comes, humans will stand between it and those who need protecting. Not because we're the biggest or the strongest or the most advanced. She paused, letting her words echo in the vast chamber. But because someone has to. And we've learned that size doesn't matter when you're standing in the right place. The vote was unanimous. Later, as the various delegations filed out, High-Mind Krek approached Sarah's platform. Tell me, human ambassador, he clicked. What is your species' word for beings who charge into certain death to save others? Sarah looked up at the towering insectoid. We call them heroes, High-Mind, though they rarely call themselves that. Krek's mandibles clicked in what she had learned was thoughtful consideration. Perhaps, he said, we have been measuring the wrong things for far too long. As Sarah watched the massive alien depart, she thought of Captain Santos and the 42 souls who had died with her in the dark between stars. They had been measured by their resolve, not their size, and they had been found worthy.